Hey guys. What a strange week it has been. It's one of those weeks where a few things that have been going on for some period of time converge, and you realize that although they were seemingly unrelated, they're interconnected after all. If you remember Laura Loomer, she interrupted the Shakespeare in the Park play Julius Caesar, contending that it endorsed political violence because it showed Donald Trump being assassinated. At the time, I felt conflicted about this. On the one hand, it does depict political violence and was funded by an increasingly emboldened group of regressives, who I find completely infuriating. On the other hand, they have used other presidents in this play, and I don't think that a play depicting an assassination is necessarily activism, especially considering that the empire descends into chaos upon his assassination. But it brings up an important, broader philosophical question. When is it appropriate to deplatform someone? Although I am aware that this play was only delayed, I think, for like 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm sure that Laura Loomer knew this would not stop the play from continuing. When I heard her speaking about this, she said that she employed what she had learned from Rules for Radicals, and she was trying to beat them at their own game, since leftists spent the last year burning down college campuses for merely booking conservative speakers. Then we had this incident with Kraut and T this week, or at least I found out about it this week, where he contacted what he thought was Rage After Storm's employer. It turns out that it was an unpaid editing position at a blog, to inform them that she had racist views. If you aren't aware of this bit of drama, Rage After Storm is a 19-year-old political vlogger who made a video about race realism that was really controversial. Then the skeptic community came down on her very hard for discussing race and IQ and a few of the sources that she had used, and ultimately, I think it was a few weeks ago, she shut her channel and her Twitter down. I tweeted about this, which is how it blew up this week. I said, when I started my channel, leftists went to my employer to get me fired. Folks from, quote, our side were appalled. Now they employ the same tactics. Then I showed Kraut's original tweet, which he did delete after about 20 minutes or so, but it was read by the company, and the subsequent public message issued the next day from Kipper about why they had terminated Rage, despite their very direct mission statement regarding the importance of free speech and advocacy for the abandonment of political correctness. Kraut said that I had lied by omission, and he was very angry with those of us that posted the deleted tweet. Then he made a response video saying basically that he wishes he had not deleted the tweet and that his actions are justified because she's a Nazi bitch. But the general response from Kraut and other skeptics is that it was her fascist views that got her fired, not Kraut, because he was just the first one to contact Kipper, not the only one. But why are Kraut and Laura Loomer related? Kraut basically deemed that Rage is a racist and a fascist. He chose what was appropriate speech for her given position, and he defined her as an external threat that warrants violating his stated moral code. I understand that he's spoken out against tactics like this on a few occasions. In many ways, Laura Loomer is similar. She single-handedly defined what is and is not acceptable speech. Granted, Kraut's intention was to get a teenager fired for wrongthink, while Laura, and many other people on the right that I respect, felt that they were making a political statement on the nature of the left's violent rhetoric. Then Tara McCarthy tweeted a response at me that made me think, in response to me denouncing false flagging of Patreon and videos of leftists. She said something along the lines of, "We will never win without fighting fire with fire." I have to say that that's true too. It's not like I have a great sympathy for the people that try to ruin my life with hit pieces and with doxing that are increasingly violent and erratic. Tara's right, we won't win by taking the moral high ground. But I feel if I do not have clear ethical lines in my mind, I may begin to entertain punishment and revenge as my primary motives, as most people I think would that feel like they are fighting with somebody that has hurt them personally. I would never advocate, for example, that if someone were in physical danger, that they should not employ violence, even first, to protect themselves. I understand that violence may be inevitable, but I hit a real ideological snag in employing tactics that we criticize when there's no threat of violence. I can't exactly condemn the actions of Kraut while defending Laura Loomer, although these situations are not perfectly equivalent. They just demonstrate some of the same principles, and both made me realize that there has to be a defined, predetermined line in the sand that we reference when deciding if it is morally acceptable to employ tactics like deplatforming, doxing, getting someone fired, the dirty stuff. I also would never say that we need to take the high road and never employ leftist tactics. We will certainly have to. If they get down in the mud, which they do, being the better person and never getting in the mud with them is not going to help us. But we can't lose our sense of humanity in this pursuit lest we become the very thing that we despise by the time that we're the victors. I think this must be why the situation with Kraut bothered me so much. Rage is a teenager with some offensive ideas on race, but she's not an enemy of the state. She's not an entity, she doesn't have the force of an organization behind her. She's merely one person with a set of developing ideas. She posed no physical threat to anyone, unless you believe that bad ideas can spread like an infection, forcing the hand of those exposed to it so they become hateful and violent. I don't really believe that an idea acts like a virus in this way. It eliminates the element of free will, like someone that hears a bad idea has no choice whether or not to believe it and incorporate it into their own lives and actions. If we observe this mutual respect for discussion, these bad ideas will be purged from our communities merely through being combated with better and opposing ideas. The only action that it requires from us is to challenge things that we disagree with on our own platforms. Even though their situations were very different, I'm only discussing them together because they both chose to reject any existing objective standards for free speech and to project what they believe appropriate speech entails for a setting or for holding a certain position. And that illuminated the danger of arbitrary standards for retaliation. And this comparison made me realize that it is the direct, express threat of violence or exhibiting violent behavior on an individual level. That has to be the line. If Rage had said, "I hate black people, this is why we should kill them, and this is how we should kill them," that would be reason enough to contact her employer. In Laura's case, if the play had given some really specific, accurate insight into how best to kill Donald Trump, or had changed the plot to show that there was clear support for the assassination, there would have been a better reason to interrupt the play. That being said, Tara is right. We have to be prepared to employ leftist tactics, but the problem that we're having is identifying the appropriate target. Yvette Filarka, for example, the leader of BAM by any means necessary, she's also a teacher and an Antifa activist. She has outright advocated for violence on national television.
I think that the left has been far too timid for way too long. And it's why we've even gotten in this position where we even have someone like Donald Trump leading a fascist movement as the president of the United States. We need to make sure that we have more mass protests, more militant protests that are mass and militant. And the reality is that these aren't people just putting forward their ideas. We have a right to defend ourselves, and not only a right, we have an obligation to do that.
Now, if people want to employ rules for radicals tactics on someone that was developing a game plan for enacting widespread violence against a group of people, this would be a more convincing case for me. If people on the right found ways to go after her income stream or posted her home address, I can't say I would denounce these actions. They're far more mild than those she is outright endorsing. This is a case where I can see rules for radicals being employed properly exclusively because of her treatment of political violence. This woman and the organization that backs her pose an actual threat and are not hiding their intentions. Not a teenager with the wrong ideas or a public play put on by soft leftists and academics. We need to adjust our targets, which is why it is so important to have understood standards. And that set standard needs to be, is this a material threat of violence? Does the totality of this person or entity's behavior lead me to believe that people are in danger? Not a single instance or a single tweet that Twitter mobs can pile onto to show everyone how not racist they are. If this line is not observed, we will literally begin to embody everything that we hate about the left. And this is why adherence to nearly unfettered free speech is the most important principle. I make an exception for the actual threat of violence because if this is not observed, we will only have the opportunity to counterattack. When we compromise on this, people far less rational than Kraut and Laura Loomer will get to define what is and is not acceptable speech based on their own emotional whims and sensitivities. I do not want any single individual doing that. It's too dangerous. And there's always a risk that what is defined as acceptable speech changes tomorrow. I took a different tactic with this Kraut drama. I posted the initial tweet, a few follow-up tweets clarifying, explaining that Rage was not paid, but for the most part, I just let people reveal their ideas and did not counter very much. I also heard that Kraut's videos and Patreon were getting flagged, so I didn't want to further aggravate the situation. But part of it also was that I knew that they were defending an indefensible position because they had to outright say that some speech is just too fascist. And as expected, people did not like this for the same reasons that I did not like it. The resulting controversy has shown us a greater truth about what we really believe. Let me know what you think in the comments section. I know people are pretty polarized about employing leftist tactics, and I've been very conflicted about it, so I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Thanks, and I'll see you on Friday. Bye.